Hi, this is Sheila Stromberg, Notorious SHE. I am doing a tutorial today on how to work a pleated row for my next pattern. I'm going to call it Riverton Tee. So the section that I'm working is on the front part of the garment. As you can see, I've already finished the main body of it and the back neckline. The neck is shaped normally, so you shouldn't have any problem with it if you've knit a sweater before. The part that I am working right now is right on the front of the neckline of the garment. There's going to be a little pleat. Pleating is really easy, but if you haven't done it before, it can seem a little bit tricky. It's really not very bad though, so hopefully this will help you. The yarn I'm using today is Cascade yarn alpaca lace. I only really needed to buy 2 balls of it, like, what is that, 850 yards. And I'm going to get a whole sweater out of it, well, t-shirt I suppose, for like $15. So it's really a lot of bang for your buck. Okay, so we're going to get started on the row. The section that I'm working is under the heading that I'm going to call Pleat and Split. And make sure you check the stitch count for the size that you're working. I'm working the size small, so just make sure that you check the numbers before you get started doing this row. So I'm going to knit as it tells me to in the pattern, 26 stitches. 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Okay, 26. Check your size. You might have different stitch count. So the next thing that you're instructed to do is to pleat 10 to the front. To pleat the row, I like to use a nice long double pointed needle. Make sure it's just the same size as the main body needles, size 5 or whatever you needed to get your gauge. So we're going to kind of treat it at first like cabling. So it says to pleat 10, so that means to slip 10 to the needle, the double pointed needle. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so just like cabling, it's going to tell you if you wants it to the front or the back. The first half we're going to do to the front. So to work these stitches, I'm going to hold them together. This part is kind of like a 3-needle bind off, but I found it's kind of the best way to make a nice pleat without having to do it in the seaming. So we're going to hold together the double pointed needle with our main needle. I switched to regular straight needles at this point. You don't have to. You might have a cable needle as the back one right now. That's fine. Okay, so we're going to knit together one from the front loop with one from the back, or I mean front needle with one from the back needle. And then yarn over and then pull the yarn through the back and then the front. And then I slide it right off, slide the back one right off. And that's really all you're going to be doing. You're going to do it until you run out of needles on your stitches on your double point needle. So the back and then the front, slide it off, go into the next one. There we go. Slide it off, and that's all that we do for the pleat. And this is going to save you from having to make that pleat in the seaming, which I hate doing. I mean, it's fine, but if I can think of a different way to do it, you know I'm gonna. This way you don't have to measure all that crap, and oh, seaming is the worst. I hate it. This whole garment only has 1 seam, the shoulders, well I guess 2 if you count both of them, and that's not too bad. Okay, so the last stitch we're going to get a little leggy. If you can see that, it's just a little stretched out. So now we're done with this for now. So you can see how that pleat lays. It kind of just folds a little pocket of the fabric there. That's what it looks like on the back. And it won't look very defined right now. It will look a lot more defined after we block it. Okay, so after we've pleated 10 to the front, we're going to pleat 10 to the back. So we slip another 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so now we're going to hold them at the back and then hold together our straight needle with our double pointed needle. And slide them up, and then we do the exact same thing. Work together. Whoops. One from the front with one to the back. This is going to decrease our stitch count on this part of the garment by 10 stitches for each side of the pleat, because we're just knitting these two together. So you're going to have 20 stitches less by the end of this row because we have two pleats. I knit up my first sample in like this great Anzula silk. It's called Anzula Breeze. It's so perfect for spring. We've had a really, really warm spring where I'm at. And of course today, the day I'm recording this, it's like snowing outside and raining all day. But other than that, it's been really nice weather. And so I've started my spring knitting early. We don't usually get much of a spring here in Utah. It usually goes straight from snow to warm, like summer weather. So this year's been really nice. Okay, so now we're at the end of the second pleat. Okay, so we can put our double pointed needle down. So you can see that the pleats are just butting right up against each other, but they kind of leave this big gap here. You don't have to put a stitch marker here. I'm just going to put one right in the middle of the pleat so that you guys, whoops, can see what I'm doing on the back of the work, because you won't be able to see the center of the pleat as clearly. So that marks the center of my pleat. Again, you don't need to do that for yours. And then just knit to the end of the row. So you should have the same number of stitches on either side of the pleat left. Ooh, sorry, the trash truck is going by. Whoops. What's going on here? Uh-oh. No, that's okay. Okay. Now we're going to work the wrong side row. So, okay, the wrong side row, we're going to bind off some and we're going to snug up the center of the pleat. So I'm going to, as we've been doing, slip the first stitch and then purl the number of stitches that the pattern indicates for you to. I'm doing the size small, so it's 22, 2, 3, oops, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay, so now you should have 23 stitches on this needle for the size small. The larger sizes will have a different stitch count. Okay, so I like to use a double pointed needle to bind off when I'm trying to bind off loosely. I don't like having all these sitting around. So you can bind off with this needle if you prefer. I don't, but you don't feel like you have to do it the way I'm doing it. Oops, sorry. Okay, so now we're going to bind off nice and loose. This needs to fit over your head, and with lace weight where we're going to block it so much bigger than we're using the needle sizes for, you need to make sure that you leave these stitches. See, I've left them like pretty leggy. 2, 3, whoops. 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I'm going to bind off 9 stitches there. So basically what you're going to want is to have one bound off loop on your right hand needle and then 2 stitches before the center of your pleat. You can just tell that by looking at the back of the work. If you're not sure if you've bound off the right amount of stitches, if you didn't mark it, you don't need to mark it, you can just look and tell. So now the next stitch is going to be purl 4 together. This is going to snug up that nice pleat and make it look real concise at the top instead of looking all like leggy. So I'm just purling 4 together. Oops. There we go. And then we're going to bind that off too. Okay, now you're going to continue to bind off. Okay, so at this point, I like to count the stitches to make sure that we have the same amount on the first half as we have on the second half. So I had 23 on the first half for the small, so I'm going to count them. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 25. Whoops, I'm off. So I need to bind off 2 more. 1, 2. So now I should have 23 left, and I just will knit them to the end of the row. And then the remainder of the neck shaping is pretty standard. You should be able to follow the directions for that. And I don't think there's going to be anything else I need to make a tutorial for in this pattern, but if I do, look out for a second one. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to send me a message on Ravelry, or you can always email me. My email address is going to be at the end of your pattern. At the very bottom, it'll say it. If you have any questions or anything that you need another tutorial or anything like that, let me know. Okay, thanks for watching.